Under the guise of acting in our best interests, we have allowed our servants, our employees, the public trustees for whom we have granted power, to pillage and plunder this earth and all the peoples upon this earth. And we've allowed this to happen while we sat on our hands and allowed ourselves to be programmed into accepting a different and more acceptable version of reality delivered to us daily by a box in the corner of our living room. Through our failure to notice our surroundings and our failure to act, we have allowed our public trustees, under the pretense of spreading freedom, to conduct scores of pointless wars, resulting in the death of millions upon millions of souls. Under the guise of acting in our best interests and through our own inaction, we have allowed ourselves to be used as commodities by big pharmaceutical companies, culminating in the creation of a world today where 1 in 2.7 people is now affected by cancer, either personally or via a loved one, when 100 years ago the average rate stood at 1 in 100 people. And this is the world that we have allowed to be created around us by our failure to see the power and potential we each hold individually. Our failure to face the shadow within us, our failure to connect with those around us, and our willingness to be ruled by our servants. And yes, folks, it's a right pickle we find ourselves in due to all of the above. And so I really do believe it's about time we stood up collectively to address the situation. And this is part of what my road trip to James Price Point is all about, to stand up with the Numbal people and attempt to stop the gas hub that is being built there at the mouth of the Rainbow Serpent. There are just so many reasons why we should stand up against this government, folks. There are so many reasons why we should hold our servants accountable. As a matter of interest, smart meters have recently been installed in Australia as well. And some of the readings people have been getting from these meters have been up to 300% what their actual bill is. There's an interesting article on the Crow House you might want to look at regarding this as well. And yet the government insists on these smart meters, and this is yet another reason why we should be standing up against the actions of our government. Our government allows international corporate interests to pollute the planet with free abandon, and yet insists that the public use energy-efficient light bulbs, which are known to produce dirty electricity and cause cancer and skin problems and all sorts of stuff. And yet again, the government insists that this is the way it must be, and that it is for our benefit, and we should be thankful that we are being given these electromagnetically pollutive devices to use. The people of Australia are having a carbon tax imposed upon them as well, and the crippling cost of this carbon tax is set to break the back of pretty well every normal Australian. It's going to be almost impossible for people to live any kind of normal life due to the imposition of this tax. And the tax, of course, will do nothing to prevent climate change or nothing to prevent global warming, which isn't a reality anyway, but even if it were a reality, this tax will be completely ineffective with dealing with the problem. All it essentially is a way of making people pay to breathe. And again, folks, this is being imposed by our servants, those people whom we employ to act as public trustees and to operate in our best interests, which, judging by their action, seems to be exactly the opposite of what these people are actually doing. And this has become an all too typical observation in regard to politicians and government bodies, none of which seem to have any respect for the people they have sworn to serve. And people simply just need to notice this, folks. People simply need to realize that this is what's going on, so that they can stand up and affect some positive change. And all we have to do is to realize it, folks. I mean, if you've got a servant in your house and the servant is playing up and stealing the silver, well, you usually sack the servant or at least reprimand them. I mean, I have no problem forgiving these people for what they've done. I have no problem forgiving anyone. I don't wish to hurt anybody. I just would like to see society and those who have styled themselves as the rulers of our society to wake up to reality a little bit and to come home. You see, we truly are in a period of great change, my friends. We really are in a transitional period. The energy is changing. The consciousness of humanity is becoming far more alive. People are waking up to what is actually going on in the world, and people are very tired of it. And a lot of people, once they see this ridiculous beast system for what it is, they want to stand up against it. But their first impulse is to do so violently. And if the people do act in a violent way in order to bring about change, they're not going to be bringing about the right type of change. All they're going to be doing is helping to usher in the police state that the elite would like to usher in. That's why what I've attempted to do on all of my radio broadcasts is present a peaceful option for change. Because all you really need to do is be the change you wish to see. All you really need to do is respect those around you and stand in who you are and stand in your heart and forgive the people around you. And showing compassion for all and forgiving your enemies for their past transgressions is perhaps one of the hardest things anybody will ever have to do. It's one of the hardest obstacles you will ever face, and yet it is one of the most freeing things you could ever do. Because when you stand in compassion for all life on this earth, it becomes impossible for you to be hurt in any way. Maybe you could be hurt physically, but emotionally, spiritually, it is impossible to hurt you. Because it is in letting go of this anger and this need for revenge and this stuff that you have with other people that true freedom lies. And I know this because I've experienced it myself, folks. When I was younger, I used to hold on to grudges. I would let them build up inside me, and they would remain there as part of my consciousness, like a festering sore in the back of my mind. And it wasn't until I realized that everybody's perspective is valid, and that any actions that people have done, which I have perceived to be bad, have been carried out by them due to their misconception of reality, and it is the misconception that they've been trained to have by the society itself. And I realized that what I had to do was forgive these people for their past actions, that it didn't matter what people had done in the past. What mattered was what people do from this point forward. What matters is what I do from this point forward and what I feel from this point forward. And once I truly began to grasp it and truly began to stand in that spirit of compassion and empathy for all life around me, then my world changed. My life changed. Everything changed. And I've never looked back, folks, because it's been a truly synchronistic and wonderful and empowering journey ever since I made that change in my emotional outlook. And as I've said, it may be one of the hardest things you will ever do, to forgive those who have wronged you, but it is absolutely what must be done. And as soon as mankind can succeed in overcoming this one emotional obstacle, the whole world will change. And I think it's break time here, folks, so I'll leave it there for now, and we'll go and have a break, and I'll talk to you again in a few minutes. Thanks for listening.